What is up, everybody? Jaco here today, and today I want to talk. Bella, please. Bella, stop. Down. I'm going to talk about my life and my childhood. Bella, please. My life and my childhood, and now you guys might say, well, Jake, you don't have to tell your fans everything. It's not me telling my fans, it's almost like me telling myself, because this is a video I can reflect on and watch again. So I'm not making this video so people can feel sorry for me. You don't have to feel sorry for me. I just kind of want to explain how I am, why I am what I am today, and how I became this way and everything like that. Because no matter how hard I try to deflect it, no matter how hard I think I'm better, it always comes back to haunt me. And that is depression. Now, a couple days ago, I was the happiest I've ever been. Then the next day, something doesn't go my way. Something doesn't change the way I wanted it to change, or somebody didn't change the way I wanted it to change. And I then think the most negative thoughts in my head, and then plan out the worst case scenario, and then react with the worst personality and suggestions and everything like that. So it's something that, I have a sister who's 3 years older than me, and she struggles. Bella, stop. Bella, please. Oh my God. No, come on. Stop. So the problem is she thinks I'm talking to somebody. That's why. Stop. So my sister struggles with the same thing that I have, but hers, stop. Hers really never gets better. So, I've talked to my sister before and said, if you ever need anything, I'm there for you. But it's crazy because depressed people never say anything. Depressed people never say anything. Like, they just go about their business and will do the most rational thing and not even tell you about it. You might wake up the next day and see your beloved one hanging from a ceiling fan. And that's the truth, because they don't speak their mind unless they're open about it. And a lot of them are not open about it. Me, I talk about my problems, but I don't tell them to the people that I don't feel can help me in any way to solve them. Now, that doesn't mean I'm telling my fans because I want you guys to help me. I don't want help from you guys. I want you guys to realize what I've been through and what I deal with. Now, you might listen to my story and say, Jake, your life wasn't that bad. There's people who are homeless, struggling on the street, only have one parent. And I get it. There's a lot worse. There is. But it's your emotional level of what can you actually handle, right? So let's start from the very beginning and go from there. Now, I'm going to be missing on a lot of things. I was originally going to write a book, but I'm not going to stay here and write a 300-page book on my autobiography of my life. And I know I'm going to miss a lot. So let's try and start from the beginning. I was born September 9th, 1993 in Camden, New Jersey, about 5 to 10 miles from Pennsauken, New Jersey, where I was born. And I lived in Pennsauken till the age of 9. Now, the house that I grew up in was a 3-bedroom, 1-bath, 1,000 square foot house in a not so great neighborhood. And not only that, it became worse and worse as I got older. So my family never ever put restrictions on what I did. You didn't have to be home at a certain time. You weren't allowed to go a certain distance. You weren't allowed to hang out with certain people. My entire life was my parents are the parents that just didn't, I don't know if they didn't care or they didn't put those rule sets on me, or they were waiting for me to fail and learn from my failures. Now, I don't agree with what they did. I don't, it's one thing to be a concerned parent, and it's one thing to be an insanely concerned parent. My parents didn't care. So growing up in Pennsauken, New Jersey, again, South Jersey, about 30 miles from Cherry Hill. What was crazy is that I lived not too far from my cousins, but I didn't really see my cousin that often until after I moved to Florida. It's really, really weird situation. I guess it was an age thing. Even though we were 6 months apart, I meant age as in like since I'm so young, my parents are not only that, growing up, my parents were very, very frugal. Um, I can remember my mom actually caring about me and loving me until the age of 9. And I've seen videos, I've seen VHS tapes of me as a child, and I looked happy. I looked like I had a decent childhood. Now, I can't remember a lot before the age of 9. I remember certain things like I was in the neighborhood going to pick up my sister that was like a mile away from my parents' house. And I went to the house and I was going across the street and two kids beat the shit out of me. And that's why I have that scar on my temple right here. But I can't remember a lot. I remember that I was held back in the first grade, not only to bad grades, but because the cutoff date. I was born September 9th, so they held me back in the first grade. Now, that doesn't mean I'm an unintelligent person. With regards to school, I never ever really tried my hardest in school. I was always kind of deterred from the people around me and acting like, very obnoxious and loud. And that made me not want to do work in school. Not only that, my parents have never, ever, ever asked me if I'd done my homework. My parents never said, "Can I help you with your homework?" So, not only, my mom, I would say my mom loved me, but my mom, in my entire childhood, from when I started elementary school till college, has never, ever been there for me. Ever. Now, you might say, "Jake, you had two parents." Most people don't. Well, this was my parents. My dad was a singer, and if he wasn't singing, he was on the couch watching TV. If I bothered him while he was watching TV, he would say, "Shh, go to your room." That was my childhood. Then my mother, let me tell you this. I can't recall one time that my mom cooked me dinner. I can't recall one time that my mom took me out to dinner and paid for it. I'm talking about before the age of 20, 21. Never. Now, did she do that maybe when I was 4, 5, 6, or 7? Maybe, but I can't, I don't have recollection of it. Stop. 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 She's so annoying right now. So, I say to myself, even as a child, I was, unpopular. I didn't have any friends because my dad didn't have any friends. My mom didn't have any friends. And that's the feeling that I had. Now, I had a sister who was 3 years older than me, right? My sister never wanted to hang out with me. Stop. My sister never wanted a brother. My sister always told me, "Why couldn't I have a little sister? Why can't I have a little sister?" My sister told my family, and I don't hate my sister for this. I talk to my sister. My sister told my family, "Send him to boarding school. I'll pay to send him to boarding school." My sister isolated herself as a child. And we talk about this today and said, why? And the reason why I would bother my sister, as she would quote unquote say, is because my parents never gave me attention. So I look at my sister for attention. And she didn't give it to me. So it hurt. And it hurt bad. And anytime I bothered my sister would relate to my father, who was watching TV. So now I'm bothering my dad by bothering my sister. And guess what happened? I got beat. I got smacked in the face. I got smacked in the backside. And I got beat. And it made me resentful. And it made me hurt inside. Just because I wanted attention, that I deserve to be beat. Does that sound fair to you? Or should a child have a good life and have friends and have family and have parents and a sister that loves them? Didn't deserve that. I didn't deserve that. I just wanted to be loved. So to continue with the story, my grandparents moved to, hold on, this is gonna fall. My grandparents moved to Florida a few years before us. And my dad is the type of guy who never wanted to work a real job. And I get it, because I don't want to work a real job. So he never ever did extra to give extra, to get by extra. He worked just enough to pay his bills, which he didn't even pay properly. My parents went through 2, possibly 3 bankruptcies before the age of 9 years old for me. My dad is a very frugal individual, and it's nice that he doesn't buy things for himself, right? And his money goes to his bills. But he didn't really, I mean, when I was a child, when I was before 5, 6, 7 years old, I had a lot of toys. I did. And I appreciated it all. But I feel like at one point it was cut off. Like I felt like I'm 18 and you're like, well, it's time to leave the nest, son. That's what I felt. But at the age of like 6, that's how I felt. I'm just thinking in my head of everything that I've been through, and it's a lot. So let me tell you more about my father, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail what he did because I'm not trying to get him in trouble in any way. My dad stole. My dad was a thief. And did he rob banks? No. Did he steal from people? No. He stole for his children to survive. And that's why I respect my dad. Now, is stealing right? No, it's not right at all. But sometimes you do what you got to do to survive. Sometimes. Now, when I first moved to Florida, I was caught stealing. But I was stealing something that wasn't a necessity, that wasn't needed in my life, and that was cards. Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Dragon Ball Z cards. And I got caught and I cried. And they were trying to charge us a fee or a fine, and my dad didn't pay it. And we gave back the cards that we stole. It was actually me and my sister at the time. And then I never stole again. So I learned my lesson. But in my childhood, I was never told what was right and what was wrong. It was up to me to figure it out. And I've made a lot of mistakes. Did I kill somebody? No. But I hurt a lot of people emotionally. Women that I've been with, family members that I cut off, friends that I cut off, relatives that I cut off. And that's how I live my life, in isolation. So let's move ahead. Let's talk about, okay, let's go back to what he actually stole to make more sense of it. So like I said, there was times we went to an all-you-can-eat restaurant. And he would bring a bag and a plate. He would take enough food for the week from the restaurants to feed us. Again, it might not sound that bad because he's just trying to feed his kids, but that's just what he did. So that's just something that he did. And there's stuff that he does to this day. And I'm just not going to say it because it's what it is. And it's became a thing where it's not just for his family anymore, where it's taking things that aren't a necessity, and it's bad. And I'm not going to do anything about it. I'm not going to snitch on him. He's already gotten in trouble multiple times. There's not much they can do about it. I don't care. I don't talk to my dad, and I barely talk to my mom and sister. And I'll get to that later on in the story because this is going to be a 30-minute story. So we're at 14 minutes pretty much. So let's move ahead. My grandparents were in Florida for a couple years, and my grandma and grandpa really wanted my dad to come out. So what do? They give him the money for a down payment on a $225,000 house, $30,000. This is exciting for me. This is a new start. This is a chance for me to make new friends. This is a chance to be in a house that's 2.5 times bigger than what I grew up in. So we drive to Florida. I think it was in like the middle of the school year or in the summertime or right before summertime. So I started the third grade in Florida, or fourth. I think it was the fourth grade. I did the third grade in New Jersey. I left early, and then I started fourth in Florida at an elementary school. I loved it. I loved the move to Florida. I loved my bedroom. I loved the house. I felt on top of the world. And then I got bullied. I tried to fit in. I tried to have friends to fix what I didn't have with my parents and my sister and my family. I tried. I always lived my life trying to be a leader and not a follower. And because I always wanted to be that leader and nobody wanted to join, I was the outcast. I was hated. I was disliked. I was bullied. I was always bullied by the older kids in my community where I grew up. I had friends that were manipulated by other people who are older than them to beat me up, to fight me. All throughout middle school, all throughout high school, I was in situations of fights that I didn't even want to be in, that I didn't even start it, that I had no intentions of fighting back. I was in about 4 or 5 fights. I didn't want to be in any of them. I was a skinny kid, very, very skinny, lanky kid. I wasn't that tall either until and I'm still not tall, I'm average, but I was always short. It's like people looked at me and be like, oh, I could mess this guy up. Let me go mess him up, right? So that's one of the reasons why I work out today. I don't let people push me around anymore. I don't let people bully me. Obviously, there's still people who can kick my ass, but I know not to test people like that. And I know not to test people who are psychotic either. Because just because you're not stronger than somebody doesn't mean somebody can't pull up on a gun with you or a knife or a taser, whatever. I use my mind rather than my fist. That's the right thing to do. So I'm in Florida. Like I said, bullying. The situation with my family gets worse. My mom becomes addicted to prescription drugs, Xanax, all types of drugs. She was mixing about 8 to 10 pills a day, every single day. So my mom, between the age of 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, was having an affair with another man. Whether I can prove it or not, it was pretty much proven. And even though my sister and I made it, aware to my father, he didn't care. He honestly didn't care. I always wondered why my parents stayed together. And I always asked my dad, because this was my parents. If my parents were together, they were fighting. They were yelling at each other. They were telling each other how much they hate each other, how much they want to get a divorce from each other. So I always suggested to my father, why not get a divorce? And he pretty much said, well, I'm waiting for you and your sister to go to college or move out. We moved out. I continually asked them. And pretty much his answer was, I'm not going to find anybody else. That was his answer. So when my mom were on these prescription drugs, it made her insane. Now, I would wake up at school for school like 7:30 every single morning. And I'm thankful because my dad was there to make me breakfast, to make my school lunch, to take me to school if I'm not riding my bike, and usually to pick me up. And I appreciate that. I did appreciate it. And put a roof over my head and fed me. Because if I didn't have that, I had nothing. When I woke up for school, my mom was sleeping. My dad told me, do not disturb your mother. My mom was the person who always threatened my dad. If you don't do this, I'm not going to help you with the bills, which she didn't really help anyways. If you don't do this, I'll leave you. If you don't do this, if you don't do this, if you don't do this. My mom has an addiction to spending. My mom is a hoarder, and at that time, my mom was a pill addict. Her brother passed away a few years ago to addiction. A few years from when I'm making this video, not from when this happened. So you can tell it was definitely there. She also had 2 other siblings who passed away before they were born. So it was just her and her brother, who she was a few years older than. So I would go to school, come home. My mom was at work. She was a caregiver my entire childhood. I mean, she took care of older people. I'd come home and most likely either do my homework or whatever. And my mom wasn't home. Dinner time. Mom wasn't home. I went to bed. Mom wasn't home. The only time I ever saw my mom was possibly on the weekends, in which she would wake up at 2 or 3 p.m. every single day. And then go out, shopping, hanging out with that guy, doing whatever it takes not to spend time with her children. My mom was also a germaphobe. She would not touch anything. I can't remember one time in 10 years, sorry, about 8 years, in about 8 years that my mom hugged me and told me she loved me. Why? What did I do? What's crazy is that I never had negative, depressing thoughts until after I was, about 18 years old. I kind of thought that the life that I was living was normal, was the norm. But it's not. This is why I wanted children. And this is why I still want children. I want to be an amazing father and be everything that my parents weren't. And I know it comes with, rebellion from your children and stuff like that. But to see a little version of yourself and to treat it like you just don't give a shit about it is insane. So, over the course of middle school, high school, I didn't repeat any grades. I managed to graduate high school. Barely. My last 2 years, not barely, but my last 2 years of high school, I pretty much didn't even go to school. I pretty much didn't do any of my homework, any projects, anything. I barely got by doing the most minimal things ever. at that time I was playing a game called RuneScape, and that took up most of my life because I didn't have any friends, because my family didn't care what I did. And what sucks is that I carry all this today into relationships where I feel like I can't trust anybody, where I feel like everybody's out to get me. It sucks because I hurt the people that I love. So this video is going to be from age 5 to 18. And then I'll make another video later on about 18 to now and talk more about, you know, moving out of my parents and going to college and stuff like that. But I never had really any best friends that lasted for more than a few years. I had a friend named William that lasted, you know, a good 4 or 5 years. Even though we lived in the same neighborhood, we barely hung out. I had a friend named Nathan who we got into a fight, never talked again. I had a friend named Chris we played basketball with, but there was times that Chris hated me. There was times that Chris liked me. There was a friend named Joe who I was really close with, but we grew apart. He decided to, you know, smoke weed and stuff. So a lot of the people who I was friends with end up changing over time, and it made me lose them as a friend because I didn't want to take the same path that they were taking. I didn't want to go down that path, and I shouldn't have to go down that path to be your friend. So before the age of 18, I don't even think I had a girlfriend. I didn't lose my virginity until I was 18. I was very shy when it came to girls, and I still am very shy when it comes to girls. I don't go out of my way to talk to girls, and I was never like desperate to lose my virginity either. I wasn't like, oh my God, I need to have sex. Oh my God, I'm a virgin, blah, 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 blah. I didn't really care. It didn't mean that much to me. And even to this day, like, sex is not the most important thing in my life. Having somebody that loves and cares about me is the most important thing in my life. And I'm hurt, and I bring a lot of stuff into my relationships now because I was neglected as a child. And a lot of people don't see that. And it hurts because I don't want to bring my past into my relationships now, but I don't have a choice. I wish I could just throw it all away and put on a smile and act like everything is okay, but it's not. It's not okay. Bella, stop. Luckily for me, and I'm going to end this off with this, and there's still so much more to talk about. I've contemplated suicide a lot. Am I going to take a gun to my head and shoot myself in the face? No, I'm not that clinically insane. But when I have this depression, the only thoughts in my head are negative. And it's like, can I think of something positive to overcome it? No. The only way to fix it is to somebody tell me what I want to hear. And nobody's going to say that to me. Because I need help. I thought about taking as many pills as I can and giving up on my life. But at the end of the day, nobody's going to take care of my dogs. Buster, Bella, B Junior, and Bila. Nobody here. There's nobody here for them but me. And I live my life loving my dogs every single day, whether they're a pain in my butt or not. They're still my dogs. And I would do anything for them. And I can't just give up on my life and be selfish and they won't have anything. They need me and I need them. I love you. I love you. Give me a kiss. I love you. See you soon, guys.